Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayan Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Dire Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhaktasya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, today we are starting new chapter, chapter 60. Lord Krishna teases Queen Rukmini. Text 1. Shri Badarayana Ruvacha Karhichit Sukham Asinam Swatalpastham Jagadgurum Patim Paryacharad Bhashmi Vyajanena Sakhi Janah. Shri Badarayani said, once in the company of her maidservants, Queen Rukmini was personally serving her husband, the spiritual master of the universe, by fanning him as he relaxed on her bed. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti poetically notes that in this chapter, Rukmini Devi is a fragrant camphor crushed on the grinding stone of Lord Krishna's speech. In other words, the lovely, chaste qualities of Rukmini will become manifest as a result of Lord Krishna's apparently insensitive words, just as camphor's fragrance becomes manifest when granules of camphor are crushed by a grinding stone. The Acharya further points out that Rukmini is personally serving the Lord because he is Jagadguru, the spiritual master of the universe, and Pati, her husband. So, even Queen Rukmini Devi, she is personally serving the Lord, and Krishna starts teasing her to bring out the qualities of Rukmini Devi. Yastve tallileya vishvam srijati vatati avatishvaraha sahijata swasetunam gopithaya yadushvajaha. The unborn personality of Godhead, the supreme controller who creates, maintains, and then devours this universe simply as his play, took birth among the Yadus to preserve his own laws. As stated in 6th canto of Bhagavatam, Dharmam tu sakshat bhagvat pranitam. Religion is a law established by God. The word setu means a boundary or limit, as in the case of a dike. Earth is raised up on both sides of a river or canal so that the water will not deviate from its proper path. Similarly, God establishes laws so that people who follow them can peacefully progress along the path back home, back to Godhead. These laws, which are meant to guide human behavior, are thus called Setu. So he creates these laws, and this is religion. Religion is the laws established by Krishna, not just man-made religion or dharma. Dharma is, well, in English it is translated as religion because there is no better word. Otherwise, it is dharma. And this is called Setu also. Setu means we have to stay within our boundaries of life. A further note on the word Setu. Earth that is raised up to separate agricultural fields or to form a causeway or bridge is also called Setu. Thus, in the 9th canto, the Bhagavatam uses the word Setu to indicate the bridge Lord Ramchandra built to Lanka. Since the laws of God act as a bridge to take us from material life to liberated spiritual life, this additional sense of the word Setu certainly enriches its use here. So Setu word can be used in different meanings, but everything comes clear in this shloka here. Also, although we haven't studied, but in Bible also says that this world is like a bridge. And the bridge means to cross over from material to spiritual. So this world or this human life is like a bridge. And there is no need to make permanent residence on a bridge. So nobody makes permanent residence on a bridge. You just keep going. So this material world is like that. It should be like that. But we waste our time making so many endeavors to live here permanently, and nobody can live here permanently. Nobody. Nothing is permanent in this material world. Everything is temporary. Tasmin antargrihe bhajan mukta damba vilambina virajite vitanena deeper मणिमयरपि मल्लिका धाम भी पुष्पर द्विरेफ कुल नादिते जालरंध्र प्रविष्टश्च गोभिश्चंद्र मसो अमल पारिजात वनामोद वायु नोद्यान शालिना धूपैर गुरुजय राजन जालरंध्र विनिर्गित पयः फेन निभे शुभ्रे पर्यंके कशिपूत में उपतस्थे सुखासीनम जगताम ईश्वरम पतिम. Queen Rukmini's quarters were extremely beautiful, boasting a canopy hung with brilliant strings of pearls, as well as effulgent jewels serving as lamps. Garlands of jasmine and other flowers hung here and there, attracting swarms of hummingbees, and the spotless rays of the moon shone through the holes of the lattice windows. As Aguru incense drifted out of the window holes, my dear king, the breeze wafting the scent of the Parijat grove carried the mood of a garden into the room. There the queen served her husband, the supreme lord of all the worlds, as he reclined upon an opulent pillow on her bed, which was as soft and white as the foam of milk. So exquisite details given about the room of Queen Rukmini. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, Rukmini's palace was quite famous then as now, and these descriptions give a glimpse into its opulence. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur adds that the word Amala in this verse may also be read Aruna, which would indicate that when this pastime took place, the moon had just risen, bathing the entire place in beautiful, ruddy moonshine. So as it says, the spotless rays of the moon shone through the holes of the lattice windows. Valvyajanam adaya ratna dandam sakhikarat tena vijayati devi upasam chakra ishwaram. From her maidservant's hand, goddess Rukmini took a yak hair fan with a jeweled handle, and then she began to worship her master by fanning him. Sopachutam kvarnayati mani nupurabhyam reje anguliya valay vyajana grihasta vasranta guda kuch kumkumashona hara Bhasa Nitamba Dhritya Chapararthi Kancheya. Her hand adorned with rings, bangles, and the charm of fan, Queen Rukmini looked resplendent standing near Lord Krishna. Her jeweled ankle bells tinkled and her necklace glittered, reddened by the kumkum from her breasts, which were covered by the end of her sari. On her head, she wore a priceless belt. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out that as Queen Rukmini fanned her lord with broad strokes, the jewels and the gold on her beautiful limbs resounded with her effort. Tamarupinim Shriya Mananya Gatim Niriksha Yalileya Dhritanor Anurupa Rupa Prita Smayan Lak Kundal Kanishka Kantha Vaktro Lasat Smita Sudham Harira Vabhashe. As he contemplated her, the goddess of fortune herself, who desires only him, Lord Krishna, smiled. The Lord assumes various forms to enact his pastimes, and he was pleased that the form the goddess of fortune had assumed was just suitable for her to serve as his consort. Her charming face was adorned with curling hair, earrings, a locket on her neck, and the nectar of her bright, happy smile. The Lord then spoke to her as follows. Srila Sridhar Swami has quoted an interesting verse spoken by Sri Parashar Muni in the Vishnu Puran. When the Lord appears as demigod, she, the goddess of fortune, takes the form of a demigoddess. And when he appears as a human being, she takes a human-like form. Thus, the body she assumes matches the one Lord Vishnu takes. So the goddess of fortune always appears with the Lord in the way the Lord has appeared. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur adds that as Lord Krishna is even more beautiful than the Lord of Vaikuntha, Lord Krishna's consort, Rukmini Devi, is even more attractive than the goddess of fortune in the Vaikuntha world. So Rukmini Devi is more beautiful than goddess of fortune, but the gopis are even more beautiful than Rukmini Devi. And topmost Srimati Radharani, no comparison. So Lord Krishna in this setting is talking to Rukmini Devi. Shri Bhagwan Vacha, Rajaputri Sita Bhuper, Lokapal Vibhutibhi, Mahanubhave Shri Madbhi, Rupo Darya Balorjita. The Supreme Lord said, "My dear princess, you were sought after by many kings, as powerful as the rulers of planets. They were all abundantly endowed with political influence, wealth, beauty, generosity, and physical strength." So we have studied that when Lord Krishna kidnapped Rukmini, how many kings were there to woo her, to take her hand in marriage. Tana praptan arthino hitva chaidya dina smar durmadan datta bhratra swapitra cha kasmanno vavrishe asvam. Since your brother and father offered you to them, why did you reject the king of Chedi? And king of Chedi means Shishupal, and all those other suitors who stood before you, maddened by Cupid. Why instead did you choose us, who are not at all your equal? So this and this Krishna is telling Rukmini Devi when she was a grandmother, actually. Krishna was grandfather. Their son Pradyumna, who we studied about how he was swallowed by the fish and he came back after killing the demon Shambar. He was already married and he had sons. And this is what Krishna is teasing Rukmini Devi here when she's a dadi and he's a grandfather in his pastimes. And he's saying, why did you choose us? You had so many wonderful people princes to choose from. Rajabhyo vibhyata asubhru samudram sharanam gata balvadhi krita dveshan prayas tyakta nripasanan. Terrified of these kings, O lovely browed one, we took shelter in the ocean. We have become enemies of powerful men and we practically abandoned our royal throne. So the throne in Mathura, he said, we had to run away from Mathura. We came here in the middle of the ocean. And everybody has become enemy of ours. So why did you choose us? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments on this verse as follows. The Lord's mentality here can be understood as follows. When I gave Rukmini a single flower from the heavenly Parijat tree, Satyabhama showed such a torrent of fury that I could not pacify her, even by bowing down at her feet. Only when I gave her a whole Parijat tree was she satisfied. Rukmini, however, did not display any anger when she saw me give Satyabhama the whole tree. So how can I enjoy the nectar of angry words from this wife who never feels jealousy, who is supremely sober and who always speaks pleasingly? Thus, considering the Supreme Lord decided, if I speak like this to her, I'll be able to provoke her anger. And this is how some authorities explain Krishna's speech to Rukmini. So he wants to get her angry and speak like Satyabhama. Of course, Rukmini Devi, her mood is actually rightist, and Satyabhama is more leftist mode. So she gets angry very quickly. But they all are there to give pleasure to Krishna in different moods. So everybody is welcome in the service of Krishna. Everybody is welcome. Every living entity gives him pleasure differently from every other living entity. What to speak of all these wonderful queens of Krishna? Basically, they all give pleasure. They all serve Krishna, but in different moods. That's all. We cannot say somebody's wrong or right. No way. They're all on absolute platform serving Krishna. According to the Acharya, here the words Balvadbhi, Krit Dvesham Braya indicate that Lord Krishna opposed almost all the contemporary kings during his incarnation, befriending only a few, such as the Pandavas and the loyal members of his dynasty. Of course, as stated in the beginning of the 10th canto, Lord Krishna appeared specifically because the earth was overburdened by innumerable bogus kings, and he wanted to remove this burden. Finally, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out that the word Tyaktva Nirpasana, giving up the king's throne, indicates that after Lord Krishna killed Kamsa, he humbly gave the royal throne to his grandfather Ugrasen, although the Lord himself was entitled to it. But he's basically saying, I gave the throne away. I don't have anything. I'm not even a king. Why did you choose me? Aspashta Vartamanam Punsam Alok Patham Iyusham Astita Padvim Subhru Praya Sidanti Yoshita. O fine browed lady, women are usually destined to suffer when they stay with men whose behavior is uncertain and who pursue a path not approved by society. Basically, he's saying, my behavior is uncertain. Nobody knows what I'm going to do next. Nishkinchana vayam shashvan, nishkinchana janapriya, tasmat prayana nahi adya, mam bhajanti sumadhyame. We have no material possessions. So basically, he's saying the kingdom doesn't belong to me. It belongs to Maharaj Ugrasen. I don't even have a house of my own. Everything is Maharaj Ugrasen's. And we are dear to those who similarly have nothing. He is Akinchan Priya. And therefore, slender one, the wealthy hardly ever worship me. That is true, actually. Like the Lord, his devotees are uninterested in material sense gratification, being awakened to the superior pleasure of Krishna consciousness. Those who are intoxicated by material wealth cannot appreciate the supreme wealth of the kingdom of God. So yeah, that is what happens. Yayoratvam samam vittam janmeshwarya kritir bhava tayor vivaho maitricha na uttama dhamayo kachit. Marriage and friendship are proper between two people who are equal in terms of their wealth, birth, influence, physical appearance, and capacity for good progeny, but never between a superior and an inferior. Persons of superior and inferior qualities may live together in a relationship of master and servant or teacher and student, but marriage and friendship are proper only between those of equal status. The word bhav in the context of marriage indicates that a couple should have similar capacity to produce good offspring. Lord Krishna here presents himself as materially unqualified. In fact, the Lord does not have any material qualities. He lives in pure spiritual existence. Thus, all the Lord's opulences are eternal and not of the flimsy, mundane sort. But from mundane perspective, Krishna is saying, you are the princess from such a big kingdom. And why did you choose me? I have nothing. Vedarbhetad vigyaya tvaya dirgha samikshaya prita vayam gunar hina bhikshubhi shlagita mudha. Oh, Vedarbhi, not being far-sighted, you didn't realize this, and therefore you chose us as your husband, even though we have no good qualities and are glorified only by deluded beggars. Athatmano anurupam bhajasva kshatriya shabham yena tvam ashisha satya iham utra chalapsyase. Now you should definitely accept a more suitable husband, a first-class man of the royal order, who can help you achieve everything you want, both in this life and next. So he's telling, you should leave me and go find some other husband. And now when she's a dadi, she's a grandmother. Lord Krishna continues to tease his beautiful wife, trying to provoke her loving anger. But it actually backfired. Chadya Shalva Jarasanta Danta Vakradayo Nripa Mamandvishanti Vamoru Rukmi Chapi Tva Agraja. Kings like Shishupal, Shalva, Jarasandha, Dantavakra all hate me, oh beautiful Tide one, and so does your elder brother Rukmi. They all hate me. Why you want to be with me? Tesham Vire Madandhanam Driptanam Smayonatte Anitasi Maya Bhadre Tejapaharata Satam. It was to dispel the arrogance of these kings that I carried you away, my good woman, for they were blinded by the intoxication of power. My purpose was to curb the strength of the wicked. So he's saying, I didn't go there to marry you. I went there to curb the strength of these wicked kings. So now you're free to go wherever you want to go. Udasina vayam nunam nastre patyartha kamka atmalabdhya smahe purna yehi yor jyote rakriyaha. We care nothing for wives, children, and wealth. Always satisfied with ourselves, we do not work for body and home, but like a light, we merely witness. So he's basically actually glorifying himself, but in a negative way. And this is what Queen Rukmini, how she glorifies Krishna. This is amazing. Amazing shlokas, she says. Shri Shukuvacha, etavad uktva bhagavan atmanam vallabhamiva manyamanam avishlesha tad darpagna uparamat. Shukdev Goswami said, Rukmini had thought herself especially beloved by the Lord because he never left her company. By saying these things to her, he vanquished her pride and then he stopped speaking. Iti trilokesha pates tad atmana priyasya devya shruta purvam priyam ashutya bhita hridi jata vepatush chintam durantam rudati jagamaha. Goddess Rukmini had never before heard such unpleasantries from her beloved, the Lord of universal rulers, and she became frightened. A tremor arose in her heart, and in terrible anxiety, she began to cry. Pada sujatena nakaruna shriya bhavam likhanti ashrubhir anjanasitah asinjati kumkum rushitostano tasthavaddho mukhya tidu dukha rudhavaka ati dukha rudhavaka. With her tender foot effulgent with the reddish glow of her nails, she scratched the ground, and tears darkened By her eye makeup sprinkled her kumkum reddened breasts. There she stood, face downward, her voice choked up by extreme sorrow. Tasya sudukh bhay shok vinashta buddhe astach लथद वलयतो व्यजनम पपात देहश्च विक्लवधिया सहसेव मुयन रंभेव वायु विहतो प्रविकीर्य केशा. Rukmini's mind was overwhelmed with unhappiness, fear, and grief. Her bangles slipped from her hand, and her fan fell to the ground. In her bewilderment, she suddenly fainted, her hair scattering all about as her body fell to the ground like a plantain tree blown over by the wind. Shocked by Lord Krishna's words, Rukmini could not understand that the Lord was only teasing, and thus she displayed these ecstatic symptoms of grief, which Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur characterizes as sattvic ecstasies, ranging from becoming stunned to dissolution. So just the thought of being away, being separate from Krishna, did this to Rukmini Devi. When he's just joking, there's nothing really going on, but just the thought. She fell to the ground like a plantain tree blown over by the wind. Tad drishva Bhagwan Krishna priyaya prema bandhanam bhasya pronim ajanantya karunasu anvakampata. Seeing that his beloved was so bound to him in love that she could not understand the full meaning of his teasing, merciful Lord Krishna felt compassion for her. Paryanka ruyashu tamuthapya chaturbhuja kesham samuya tadvaktram pramrijat padma panina. The Lord quickly got down from the bed, manifesting 4 arms. He picked her up, gathered her hair, and caressed her face with his lotus hand. The Lord manifested 4 hands so he could do all of these things simultaneously. Pramrijya shru kale netre stano chopahato shucha ashlishya bahuna rajan ananya vishayam satim. Santvya masa santavagya kripya kripanam prabhu hasya prodi bhram chittam at darham satam gatihi. Wiping her tear-filled eyes and a breast which was stained by tears of grief, the Supreme Lord, the goal of his devotees, embraced his chaste wife, who desired nothing but him, O king. Expert in the art of pacification, Shri Krishna tenderly consoled pitiable Rukmini, whose mind was bewildered by his clever joking and who did not deserve to suffer so. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, Mama Vedarbhya Suyeta, Jane Tvamat Parayanam, Tadvacha Shrotu Kamena, Shvelya Achirta Manganehi. The Supreme Lord said, O Vedarbhi, do not be displeased with me. I know that you are fully devoted to me. I only spoke in jest, dear lady, because I wanted to hear what you would say. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Lord Krishna spoke the present verse because he thought that lovely Rukmini might be afraid he would again say something to disturb her, or that she might be angry at what he had done. So he also acts like a normal husband with his wife. Mukham cha prema sarabha sfurita adharam ikshitum katakshi paruna pangam sundara bhrikuti tatam. I also wanted to see your face with lips trembling in loving anger, the reddish corners of your eyes throwing sidelong glances, and the line of your beautiful eyebrows knit in a frown. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains here that normally by the Lord's transcendental desire, his pure devotees reciprocate with him in such a way that they satisfy his spiritual desires. But Rukmini's face was so strong that a unique mood predominated in this situation, and thus, instead of becoming angry, she fainted and fell to the ground. Far from displeasing Krishna, however, she increased his transcendental ecstasy by exhibiting her all-encompassing love for him. So everybody is different, and Rukmini Devi is completely different. She is a predominating queen of Krishna, and this is her mood. Ayam hi paramo labho griheshu grihimetinam yanner mriyate yama priyaya bhiru bhamini. The greatest pleasure worldly householders can enjoy at home is to spend time joking with their beloved wives. My dear timid and temperamental one. This is what Krishna is saying, just to make a feel relief that nothing serious is going on here. The word Bhamini indicates an angry, passionate, temperamental woman. Since lovely Rukmini did not become angry despite all provocation, the Lord is still speaking facetiously. Shri Shukvacha, Savam Bhagavata Rajan, Vedarbhi Parisantvitam, Gyatva Tat Parihasoktim, Priyatya Gabhayam Jaho, Prityag Abhayam Jaho. Shukdev Goswami said, O Queen, O King, Queen Vedarbhi was fully pacified by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and understood that his words had been spoken in jest or just in a joking way. Thus she gave up her fear that her beloved would reject her. Babahasha Rishabham Punsam Vikshanti Bhagwan Mukham Savridhas Ruchira Snigdha Pangena Bharata. Smiling bashfully as she cast charming, affectionate glances upon the face of the Lord, the best of males, Rukmini spoke the following, O descendant of Bharat. Shri Rukmini Uvacha, Nanvevam etad arvinda vilochana, yadvai bhavan bhagavato asad rishi vibhumna, tvasve mahimnya abhirato bhagvan striyadhisha, Kvaham gun prakritir grihita pada. Shri Rukmini said, actually what you have said is true, O lotus-eyed one. I am indeed unsuitable for the almighty personality of Godhead. What comparison is there between that Supreme Lord, who is the master of three primal deities, and who delights in his own glory, and myself, a woman of mundane qualities, whose feet are grasped by fools? So this was first point of Krishna. Why did you choose us? We have no good qualities. And she's saying, actually, I am unsuitable. You are the almighty supreme person. You have no mundane qualities. I have all the mundane qualities. Srila Sridhar Swami lists the faults Lord Krishna had described in himself that he claimed disqualified him from being Rukmini's husband. These include incompatibility, fearfulness, taking shelter in the ocean, quarreling with the powerful, abandoning his kingdom, uncertainty as to his identity, acting against ordinary standards of behavior, having no good qualities, being praised falsely by beggars, aloofness, and lack of desire for family life. The Lord claimed that Rukmini had failed to recognize these bad qualities in him. Now she begins to respond to all the Lord's statements. So first she says, well, first she responds to Shri Krishna's statement that Kasman no Vavrishayasman. Why did you select us? We're not equal to you. Now here Srimati Rukmini Devi says that she and Krishna are certainly not equal, for no one can be equal to the Supreme Lord. So she took the argument on a totally different level. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur further points out that in her extreme humility, Rukmini is identifying herself with the Lord's external energy, which in fact is her expansion, Rukmini being the goddess of fortune. And she's saying, I'm not qualified to be with you. You're the Almighty Personality of God. And I'm what? I'm just a woman of mundane qualities. So you're right. I'm not qualified. Krishna was saying, I'm not qualified. No, she's saying, I'm not qualified. Satyam bhayad gunebhya uru kramanta shete samudra upalambham na matra atma nityam kadindriya ganah krita vigrahastvam tvat seva kar nripa padam vidutam tamo antham. Yes, my Lord Urukram, you lay down within the ocean as if afraid of the material modes, and thus in pure consciousness, you appear within the heart as a super soul. You're always battling against the foolish material senses, and indeed, even your servants reject the privilege of royal dominion, which leads to the blindness of ignorance. In text 12, Lord Krishna said, Rajabhya Bibhyata Subhru Samudram Sharanam Gata. Out of fear of the kings, we took shelter in the ocean. Here Rukmani Devi points out that the actual rulers of the world are the gunas, the material modes of nature, which impel all living beings to act. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out that because Lord Krishna fears that his devotee will come under the influence of the modes of nature and become entangled in sense gratification, he enters the internal ocean of their hearts, where he remains as an omniscient super soul. Thus he protects his devotees. The word Upalamban Matra also indicates that the Lord is the object of meditation for his devotees. So him saying that we live in the ocean, so Rukmini Devi is saying because there's everything else, everywhere else with the material modes, and you're beyond that. And also you live in the ocean of the heart of your devotees to keep them away from the material modes, to protect them, to save them. In text 12, Lord Krishna also said, Balvad bhi krita dvesha. We created enmity with the powerful. Here Srimati Rukmini Devi points out that it's the material senses which are actually powerful in this world, not just all these kings. The Supreme Lord has taken up the battle against sense gratification on the part of his devotees. And thus he is constantly trying to help them in the struggle for spiritual purity. When the devotees become free of unwanted material habits, the Lord reveals himself to them. And then the eternal loving relationship between the Lord and his devotees become an irrevocable fact. So this fight will always go on between the Lord or his holy name, which is non-different from the Lord, and the unwanted material habits that are in our heart. And when we take shelter of Krishna, Krishna's holy name, then he helps. He is constantly trying to help the devotees in the struggle for spiritual purity. So this fight will always go on. In the same verse, Krishna stated, Tyakta Nirpasanam, we renounce the royal throne. But here Srimati Rukmini Devi points out that the position of political supremacy in this world usually implicates so-called powerful leaders in darkness and blindness. As the saying goes, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Thus, even the Lord's loving servants tend to shy away from political intrigue and power politics. The Lord himself, being completely satisfied in his own spiritual bliss, would hardly be interested in occupying mundane political positions. Thus, Srimati Rukmini Devi correctly interprets the Lord's actions as evidence of his supreme transcendental nature. So these are her glories, that she didn't get angry. In fact, she is saying, you are great, and we are just your servants. We are not qualified to be with you. त्वत्पाद पद्म करंद जुषाम मुनीनाम वर्तमा स्फुटम नुप्न शुभिर ननो दुर्विभाव्यम यस्माद लौकिकम इवेहितम ईश्वरस्य भूमस्तवेहितम अथो अनु ये भवन्तम. Your movements inscrutable even for sages who relish the honey of your lotus feet are certainly incomprehensible for human beings who behave like animals. And just as your activities are transcendental to all-powerful Lord, so too are those of your followers. So Krishna had said in verse 13, O fine-browed lady, women are usually destined to suffer when they stay with men whose behavior is uncertain and who pursue a path not approved by society. But she is saying, on the other hand, even the sages or devotees who relish the honey of your lotus feet, even they nobody can understand their position. So what to speak of your movements? In the present verse, Rukmini is taking the word alokapatham to mean unworldly path. Those who are entangled in worldly behavior are trying to enjoy this world more or less like animals. Even if such people are culturally advanced, they should simply be considered sophisticated or polished animals. Srimati Rukmini Devi points out that because the Lord's activities are always transcendental, they are aspashta or unclear to ordinary people. And even the sages trying to know the Lord cannot perfectly understand these activities. So these activities, Lord's activities, can only be understood to the extent we surrender to Him and to the extent He gives His mercy to us to know His path or to know His activities. And this is what Queen Rukmini is saying. He is saying, oh, my paths are unpredictable, uncertain. But nobody can know because He is the Supreme Lord. Nishkinchano nanu bhavanna yatvasti kinchit yasmai balim balibhujo api haranti jadya natva vidanti asru tripo anta kamadhayatandha preshto bhavan balibhujam api te api tubhyam. You possess nothing because there is nothing beyond you. He says, I'm a kinchan. I don't have anything. There's nothing beyond you. Even the great enjoyers of tribute, Brahma and other demigods, pay tribute to you. Those who are blinded by their wealth and absorbed in gratifying their senses do not recognize you in the form of death. But to the gods, the enjoyers of tribute, you're the most dear as they are to you. So Krishna had said in text 14, we have no material possessions and we are dear to those who similarly have nothing. Therefore, slender one, the worldly hardly ever worship me. So Queen Rukmini begins her statement by saying, Nishkinchano nanu. You are indeed Nishkinchan. The word kinchan means something and prefix nir, or as it appears here, nish, indicates negation. Thus, in ordinary sense, Nishkinchan means one who does not have something, or in other words, one who has nothing. But in the present verse, Queen Rukmini states that Lord Krishna possesses nothing, but not because he's a pauper, because he himself is everything. What is beyond Krishna? Nothing. In other words, since Krishna is the absolute truth, all that exists is within him. There is no second thing, something outside the Lord's existence for him to possess. For example, a man possesses a house or a car or a child or money, but these things do not become the man. They exist outside of him. We say he possesses them merely in the sense that he has control over them. But the Lord does not merely control his creation. His creation actually exists within him. Thus, there is nothing outside of him that he can possess in the way that we possess external objects. So this is what Queen Rukmini is saying. You definitely are Nishkinchan. There's nothing you possess. The Acharyas explain Nishkinchan in the following way. To state that a person possesses something implies that he does not possess everything. In other words, if we say that a man owns some property, we imply that he does not own all property, but rather some specific property. A standard American dictionary defines the word some as a certain indefinite or unspecified number. Sanskrit word kinchan conveys a sense of partial amount of the total. Thus, Lord Krishna is called Nishkinchan to refute the idea that he possesses merely a certain amount of beauty, fame, wealth, intelligence, and other opulences. Rather, he possesses infinite or all beauty, all intelligence, all wealth, and so on. This is all because he is absolute truth. So he is a true Nishkinchan in that sense. Srila Prabhupada begins his introduction to the first canto, volume 1 of the Srimad Bhagavatam in the following statement, which is quite relevant here. The conception of God and the conception of the absolute truth are not on the same level. Srimad Bhagavatam hits on the target of the absolute truth. Conception of God indicates controller, whereas the conception of the absolute truth indicates the summum bonum, or the ultimate source of all energies. Here Srila Prabhupada touches upon. So God actually means Ishvara or Parameshwara. Parameshwara means controller. But absolute truth is something else. It means he is the ultimate soul of all energies. He is controller as well, but there are so many other qualities. Here Srila Prabhupada touches upon a fundamental philosophical point. God is commonly defined as the supreme being, and the dictionaries specify supreme as highest in rank and highest in quality, highest in degree. But this does not necessarily indicate the absolute truth. It's a long purport, so we'll come to the last but one paragraph. In text 14, Lord Krishna also stated, Nishkin Janapriya, I am dear to those who have nothing. Here, however, Queen Rukmini points out that the demigods, the wealthiest souls in the universe, regularly make offerings to the Supreme Lord. We may assume that the demigods, being the Lord's appointed representatives, know that everything belongs to him in the sense that everything is part of him, as explained above. Therefore, the statement Nishkinchan Janapriya is correct in the sense that since nothing exists except the Lord and his potencies, no matter how wealthy the Lord's worshippers appear to be, they are in fact offering him nothing but his own energy as a loving act. Same idea is exemplified when one worships the Ganges river by offering Ganges water, or when a child gets money from his father on the first father's birthday and buys him a gift. Father is paying for his own present, but what he is really interested in is his child's love. Similarly, the Supreme Lord manifests the cosmos, and then the conditioned soul collects various items of the Lord's creation and offers them back to the Lord. So since the whole cosmos and everything in it is simply the Lord's energy, we may say that those who worship the Lord possess nothing. Nothing belongs to us, actually. And that is why there is also, when Mayavadi philosophers, they say that Jagan Mithya, Brahma Satya, Jagan Mithya, and we don't own anything. So they say we renounce everything. So Vaishnava philosophers, they don't say we renounce everything. They say nothing belongs to us to begin with. How can we renounce anything? It's just like if I'm living in an apartment and tomorrow I come out of the apartment and say, I renounce this apartment. It wasn't mine to begin with. How can I renounce it? Only renunciation is there, is the idea of using this apartment or using this world for my sense gratification. That idea has to be renounced. Not the apartment has to be renounced. So that idea can only be renounced if we use this place, use everything in the service of the Lord. Then nothing belongs to me, nothing is used for my sense gratification, and actually everything belongs to the Lord. Everything is His energy, and I'm using it in His service. So that way, the Lord's devotees are all nishkinchan because they understand nothing belongs to me. Even my body does not. This body doesn't belong to me. It's all made up of energies of the Lord, and it should be used in service of the Lord. But this is where Mayavadi philosophers and Vaishnava philosophers differentiate. But Queen Rukmini, she is bringing out all the great points and using the words what Krishna used, and she is actually glorifying the Lord. And in the process, she is getting glorified. And so I guess we can stop here, and we'll take it up tomorrow. See anybody has any questions or comments? Okay, so you all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Jai